Welcome to Free Plugin Friday, the series where we check out a free plugin, you guessed it, every Friday. And today we are taking a look at a free compressor plugin called Levelingtool. My name is mattflanc, let's get started. So as you can see, Levelingtool is a Tube Levelign Amplifier. And what a Tube Levelign Amplifier does is it makes the difference between the loudest part of a track and the quietest part of a track smaller. It is not really a compressor, but it sits somewhere in between a compressor and a limiter. A leveling amplifier is basically a predecessor to a compressor. What you use it for is a lot of personal preference, but it is mostly used on vocals and, for example, guitar. Also, running it in stereo on your master bus for mastering and gluing everything together is a very common use of this kind of plugin. So now that you know what this plugin is, let's talk about how to use it and what the different knobs do. So there is two main big knobs in this plugin, which are the gain knob and the peak reduction knob. So let's first go over these. Let's start off by taking a look at peak reduction. Peak reduction sets the threshold from where to start the peak reduction. In this plugin, peak reduction is indicated by a percentage, but this could also be by a decibel count. I have this drum loop here and I'm going to set peak reduction all the way to 0 and we're going to listen to it. So what peak reduction does is when the loudness of this loop or any other audio file exceeds the threshold of this peak reduction, the compressor will kick in. So if I set it at 100%, the compressor will be active all the time. And as you can hear, it's really quiet now. And that is because peak reduction makes the overall track quieter. And that is why we have the gain knob, which is to bring the volume back up after using peak reduction. But you're almost never going to set the peak reduction to that kind of level, so we're going to set it to about 30% and listen to it again. As you can see, this is still pretty aggressive, so we can set it even lower. Now it's more subtle. The meter you see here is a VU meter. VU stands for volume units, and this is a visual representation of what is going on. We can show two different things on this meter, and that we can select with this switch right here. If we select GR, we are going to see the gain reduction that is being applied, just like it is right now. As you can see, the way my threshold is set right now, there is about -3 gain reduction being applied. If I set this to output, we will see how loud the output of this track is. I like to leave it at gain reduction. The next knob is the Sidechain high pass filter. You can use this on a signal that the compressor is listening to get rid of a pumping effect that some bass heavy stuff brings with it. This can also make the compression a little bit more transparent. As you can hear when I'm playing this drum track and the Sidechain high pass filter is very low, you can hear kind of a wobble, kind of this pumping effect on the kick drum. Listen again. It sounds like it's kind of stuttery, so I don't want that. And that is when I'm going to increase the Sidechain high pass filter, let's say to about 150 Hz, and listen again. It's still there, so let's bring it up even more, to about 180 maybe. I like 196 right here, and this kind of gets rid of the pumping effect in the kick drum, but keeps the rest of the track very nice and compressed. So the next knob is the drive knob, and this controls the amount of saturation that is added to the signal. So right now it's 75%, let's turn it all the way down to hear the difference. you can immediately hear the difference, and that is a nice touch to have to be able to add some saturation. So then there is 4 knobs left, which are the attack, release, ratio, and the dry-wet knob. So the attack sets the amount of time it takes to lower the gain after reaching the threshold. So right now, as you can see, when I play, the meter is pretty aggressive and it will kick in 10 milliseconds after the peak reduction threshold is exceeded. We can increase this, so let's say we want 100 milliseconds. This will also make the peak reduction less aggressive since it takes longer to activate it. Next up is the release knob, and this sets the amount of time it takes the gain reduction to stop performing after the input signal is back under the threshold. So let's set it to about 30 milliseconds and let's turn this down so it's really quick. And let's listen again and look at the meter. I'm now going to slowly turn up the release and you're going to see how the meter returns to the 0 way slower. Next up is the ratio, and this is the amount of gain reduction that is determined by the ratio, obviously. What this means is that if I have a 4:1 ratio, if the input level is 4 dB over the threshold, the output signal will be 1 dB over the threshold. So basically the level has been reduced by 3 decibels. If I have this at 10:1, the same thing applies. If the input level is 10 dB over the threshold, the output signal will be 1 dB over the threshold. And now the level is reduced by 9 dB. So lastly, we have the dry-wet knob, and this can be used for parallel compression. You usually want this to be at 100%, but this can sound nice if you use it on a drum track, for example, to have it maybe a little bit lower or higher. So let's take a listen what it sounds like on drum track when I turn down the dry-wet knob. So now I'm going to show you a quick tip you can do with this. Instead of going to the dry-wet knob here, you can also create parallel compression in Ableton by making a group of this plugin window by pressing Ctrl-G or Command-G on your keyboard. Then you want to open this menu, and you see there is a chain here. We want to create a new chain, and I'm going to name this dry. And this one I'm going to name amplifier. And now we also have parallel compression going on, and we can change the amount of the dry signal and the amplified signal that we have. So if I turn dry all the way down, we don't have a dry signal at all. If I turn the amplifier all the way down, we don't have an amplified signal at all. And the cool thing about this is that you can do it with almost any plugin. You can do this with reverb, delay, saturation, and you can create a parallel signal with any plugin. So that is it for this week's Free Plugin Friday. The download link for this plugin is in the description. Thank you guys for watching. If you have any questions, leave them in the comment section down below. My name is mattflanc. Peace out.